Welcome back to the Seezoned Crew. This is the second episode of this year. The first episode was with with Nader Dagher, our very own director of product solutions and integrations, where we were talking a little bit about Seezar. We're going to continue that theme today. Today we have director of data at Seez, Dimirtri. Dimirtri, please introduce yourself.
Nice being here in the first place. So my name is Dimitri. I come from Athens, Greece. I used to live in Dubai for 4 years. Now I'm with Seez for 4.5 years, and slowly but surely, now I'm director of data here.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm Jad Naamani, the director of marketing at Seez. I think episode on episode, you'll hopefully remember the interviewee, the interviewer. So today, Dimitri, I think what we wanted to talk about was a little bit about our data products and just understanding. I think really since I've joined Seez, I felt like Seez is at the core a data company. I think most of our products revolve around data, the understanding of data, the interpreting of data, the analysis of data for ourselves, and I think for a lot of our customers. So can you give us maybe a little bit of a brief background of like your history with Seez and what you've been working on?
Yes. So as I used to say, Seez is a tech startup that happens to work in the automotive industry. So we have a lot of products that are actually can be tailored to other industries as well. But let me be more specific. For example, we have recommendation engines. We have car price prediction models for used cars. We also have Seezar, as you probably know by now, which is our generative AI chatbot. And other products that are mostly on the pre-processing data side, like AutoMapper. It's an engine that tries to map every data source into a common format, a common nomenclature, which will serve us in two ways. First of all, it's something that we can sell. And second of all, which is more important because we designed it this way, not about selling, but for internal use, is to have a lot of data before even training a machine learning model. Because we need this vast amount of data to be accurate and statistically significant.
I agree. I think the big challenges that we have here in 2025, I think there's a plethora, so much data available to so many companies, but making sure that it is in a format that is usable is super important. Like anyone can generate data, but then to analyze that data, if it's coming from different sources.
And kind of critical, not just important, it's critical.
Yeah. Even if it's coming from different sources, it's going to come in different ways, right? So we need to make sure.
Massive cleaning.
Yeah.
Especially for some data sources in the region. Yes.
So that's what the AutoMapper does, right? It makes it tries to make that data that's in multiple formats and then make it usable.
Yes, exactly.
Very interesting. So those are a couple of the data products. I think the focus this year has been mostly around Seezar, which is, our AI virtual assistant. How do you make sure that it can understand and help different types of customers? What is the core of the product? Maybe we can introduce it a little bit from your perspective.
Yes, actually, as time goes by, I'm used now to the business perspective of Seezar as well, not only the data perspective. But what I can say is we don't want to replace, dealers or people who work in dealerships, right? But we want to empower them in many ways. And Seezar does exactly that. During an interaction with a customer, it's a chatbot, right? And it tries to understand the persona of the customer. So when it does that, it can sit on top of other data products that we have, like the recommendation engine, and recommend cars that we feel that are very appropriate, to the client needs, the customer needs, and all that. So that's one, interaction.
Yes.
But there is another aspect of Seezar as well, which I think it's, considering the point of view of each person, might be even more important. It's generating leads. It's about generating leads, right? And it can help dealerships, achieve targets that they might have. Okay, they should have, I guess. And make them understand their stock, their inventory, their fleet in a better way. So it's not only the conversational aspect. It's what happens after post-processing. It's discussion. It's conversation.
Very interesting. So I think first of all, I heard you say chatbot. We have a little bit of a sensitivity when it comes to using the word chatbot, and I'll tell you why. Because I feel like chatbot is associated with this is from the marketing team, but like it's associated with like the decision tree model that like what is currently out there.
True that.
Whereas, so we tried to, by the way, the easiest way to explain it is chatbot. So I agree with Dimitri. But we try to position it most of the time as like a virtual assistant, right? Because because it's smarter than your older decision tree chatbots, right?
We'll come to Seezar version 2 soon.
Yeah,
the Copilot. So it's
not
going to be a chatbot for sure. Yeah,
that's a whole nother story as well. So I think the core of it being able to provide value is like what information does it need or does it use to do this, right? So what are the data sources that it's using, and then how does it come up with the answer?
Okay, that's an excellent question, because we have devoted so much time in actually compartmentalizing the question types. So broadly speaking, they can be like two categories of questions, right?
Okay.
One of them is the purely inventory, stock, car related one. Like, I'm a family man, I have 3 kids and a dog, and I need a car to fit my blah blah blah, my needs. So these are the kind of questions that we call them inventory questions, because ultimately what they do is query the inventory of each dealer. So that's one type, and that's the most challenging type of question that we can ask Seezar of. But we'll come to that. The second type is easier, is generic questions that have to do with the dealership. Like, not only what's the dealership mission or anything like that, but okay, where are you located? How can I book a service? Or these kind of questions, which actually most of the replies are pure text. This is called FAQ questions, if we want to put a title on those. And we have different ways of training the bot in each question type. I don't know if you want to go in that. But
I think we touched on this when we were talking to Nader a bit.
Okay.
In the first episode, in terms of like there's agents, right? And each one is good at processing.
Yes, and tools that each agent actually uses.
Yeah.
So we select the appropriate tool based on the user's query, on the user's question each time.
So it's a simple. I'm going to try to say it in simple form, and then you correct me where I'm wrong.
Please.
So what I understand is that there's different agents. They're good at answering different types of questions. I think some of the challenges is in making sure that the right agent is processing the right question, and then that they're handing off information so that if you ask one type of question,
there is information exchange, by the way.
Because if you go from asking one type of question to asking another type of question, sometimes you don't want to get stuck with one of the agents, right? So and I think what's the model that is like becoming common is called agentic. Maybe you can explain it a little bit.
Actually, we can go a step back and talk about the so-called routing that we do. So when a user asks a question, we try to understand what type of question this is, right? When we do that, we can easily assign the proper agent and the proper tool to answer that question. It can be a simple, FAQ question, which corresponds to a simple tool that gets information from the dealer, or it can be a more sophisticated one, like a recommendation, for example, or a car carousel that we show to the customer is tied to a different tool, which is more complex, it's more nuanced, and we also keep track, we keep feedback now. Actually, there is a new feature that we have, and we are in a position to judge not only the accuracy of each reply, but how much he's satisfied or not, and why, if he's not satisfied, what's the prominent reason about not being satisfied with each question. This happens rarely, it doesn't happen often, obviously, I have to say that, but it's good for us to know, because we can measure the effectiveness of each tool separately.
Interesting. Yeah. And then, we take that information, we process it, and then we try to give a clear answer, right? So I think that then takes us into like the next question is when, we're answering these questions, what kind of pain points are we trying to solve most of the time?
Pain points from a dealer side, I guess, right?
Yeah, I guess it's from a dealer side, but the dealer is actually thinking of the customer at the end of the day, right? So so it's,
like us.
So like us. I mean, and fine, I think from the dealership side, there is like lead generation that's super important to them. But also, like, what are the insights that this can do that a traditional chatbot
Yes, exactly. The most obvious one is they need leads. They need to sell cars at some point, right? So there is an entire funnel that serves this purpose that we measure at each step of the way. I think on top of my head, one very important use from my perspective is the following. We can prioritize stock, different cars in the stock based on different metrics, if you want to say. For example, if a car is in stock for like 3 to 4 months and dealer wants to sell it faster than another one, because obviously he wants to keep, mostly newer cars or at least used cars in his inventory, we can prioritize that. We can prioritize specific brands as well. We can prompt the bot very effectively in doing that. The customer is unaware, obviously, but it's not a bad thing necessarily, right? Because at the end of the day, what we want to do is tailor each car that it's that fits better into a customer's need. How do we define customer needs, right? We create personas.
Okay.
When a customer starts interacting with the bot, we can summarize the conversation history and we can get the most obvious, points in the discussion, like the word cloud. And we have an idea about what's more fitting and appropriate for this customer. So yes. Beyond that, we do some internal prioritization based on dealers' instructions, but it is what it is.
Okay, and then sometimes, there's evolving needs for the customers. Sometimes those change. Sometimes there's market changes. How does Seezar keep up with those changes? How does it know that, maybe there are new offers, etc.? So can you give us a little bit of insight?
Yeah, that's also an excellent question.
Yeah.
Yes, so if you remember, if you recall, we have two types of questions, right?
Yeah.
So one of them has to do with the stock.
Yeah.
If a change happens, a car has been sold, or a new car has been inserted into the inventory, we know. We get some kind of notification in a data perspective, and we immediately train the bot when changes happen. So that's one. Sometimes training the bot can be expensive. Okay, it depends on the inventory size, the number of tokens, and there is a whole technical jargon behind that. But the idea is that we become immediately aware when a change happens.
Okay.
Because we don't want to give outdated information into the customer, right? That's gonna be, a very bad UX.
Yeah.
So that's one. When a new offer actually takes place during Ramadan, for example, the dealer's web page changes as well to reflect this offer. We can do something for free, which is from a data perspective, I mean free, which is we can get information from the website of the dealer several times a day. When we detect a change, because we always save what's going on in the dealer's text and FAQ part of the website, when we detect a change, we retrain the bot again.
Okay.
To make sure that we didn't miss this kind of information. Even if the dealer didn't tell us anything, we are aware. So that's the idea. We do that several times a day for free, kind of. Training is not for free. That's why we want to optimize this. We only retrain the bots when information changes.
I think one of the challenges that we've discussed internally as a team sometimes is that at the end of the day, it needs to be trained. It needs to have access to this information. There's sometimes people who think like it just knows. It doesn't just know. You have to give it a data source, right?
Exactly.
You have to be able. I think that's where we add a lot of value because we've developed it in a way where it can acquire new data, where it can learn. I think that is important for any chatbot, right? For it to have value, it needs to be constantly updated. Virtual assistant. Thank you very much. Okay.
There is one more hidden information here.
Yeah, tell me.
When it comes to inventory-related questions, which are mostly quantitative in nature, numerical in nature, we add some information that is not in the dealer's website, like the so-called car attractiveness. We assign a score in each car, which we believe, and we have A/B tested that, by the way, makes the car more. The probability of selling the car becomes higher. And also there is some information which is really, really important here, is the residual value of the car. So actually Seezar can reply in the following question. Okay, I'm a family man, I have 3 kids, etc. I'd like the top 3 SUVs that are mostly, that they will depreciate less in 2 years from now.
Yeah.
Seezar is a virtual assistant that can actually reply in this question. Because it sits on top of our other data products. 100%. What I want to say is the following. If this information changes, like we're gonna re-update, RVs, residual values, right? Seezar is aware of this as well. It doesn't mean that only inventory has to change in order to update and retrain the bot. it updates even when we change this information.
You know, we talk a lot about car attractiveness. I feel like at the company we are very familiar because we've been working with this product for years. But maybe you can explain car attractiveness. You're saying we did some A/B testing to prove it, but maybe just give like a small snippet on what that actually
we should.
is.
I think we should. Yes. So it's a score that it's proportional to the probability that the car will sell.
Okay.
It's how fast the car will sell.
Okay.
Okay.
So very high score means the car will sell quickly. Very low score means the car probably will take very long. Yes. If it even sells, right? So unless
we can do something about that as well, right?
Right.
Okay, that's another use of attractiveness score. Yes, but the idea is simple actually. Although the statistics and the math involved is not that much, but the idea is simple. We get the user interaction. We get each user's interaction with cars, and we create. We know which car has been clicked the most, which car has been favorited the most, or hot clicks, which means clicks in a short time period. How many times this specific make model variant combination, that's how we define a car, has been added to cart. Okay. So each factor has a different weight. Okay. And when we add all these things together, we get a score, a normalized score, obviously, right? From 0 to 100. And we assign this score to a car. We have A/B tested that, which means we know when a car has been sold, what's the score that was assigned. And indeed, we've seen that cars with higher score are selling faster.
Just for reference, we're talking about used cars.
Used cars, yes. Used cars.
Because, every used car is a little bit different, so...
Although we can extend this description to new cars as well.
To new cars as well, but I think new cars in terms of like an inventory, you want to sell all of them, right? But you have different audiences for each one, so so like they're attractive to the right audience. So you need to just make sure.
Yes.
I don't want to get into the details there, but like if it depends on the audience that you're attracting.
But I have to say something now. You gave me okay.
Go for
Actually, we assign group of users to groups of cars.
Yeah.
We do recommendation engines in different ways. One of them is the so-called collaborative filtering, as we say in data jargon, is what Netflix and Amazon are using, where there is a rating for each car, which the score can be translated into a rating. So I do this kind of transformation. And we assign group of users to group of cars. Actually, this solves a very important problem that usually recommendation engines have to solve. It's the so-called cold start problem. If a user just enters, the website or starts interacting with the website, we don't have any past data from this guy, right? So we have to have an idea about what cars we usually want to recommend to these guys. And this approach serves us really well when it comes to that. So we can even solve this problem. Obviously, when a user interacts a lot with a website and clicks on specific brands or specific body types or in specific price category, we immediately know what we want to recommend.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that sits on top of Seezar. Another thing that you're saying sits on top of Seezar is residual value. Should we give a quick intro on what residual? Again, we're very familiar. We both work in the product.
Yes.
With a bunch of regional and global players, but in terms of maybe explaining what residual value is, right? So.
Yes. My personal opinion, I can start with this one. I think that we are very experienced when it comes to assigning a residual value to a car. We have plenty of clients. We get feedback from clients.
But what is it?
And we refine our models to calculate the residual value. What is the residual value? You get the car as new, right?
Yes.
The moment you open the door and get into the car, you immediately lose value of the car. Okay. So that's a residual value. What is the price of the car at a specific time?
Okay.
At a specific point in time after you got it. After the car was new, a price changes. You can even plot it. You can even plot it. We know that the residual value changes in time. It almost always depreciates. It's not always the case because some market events might happen. Some, flooding or a sudden influx of a specific car type, or a facelift. These events take place and change the current value of a used car. We have machine learning models that calculate the car value, the residual car value. Obviously, the input is mostly the same as in car attractiveness. It involves user interaction plus age of the car, mileage, brand type, brand and model. But something that we're particularly proud of is the following. we have automated the incorporation of automotive news into calculating a residual value.
Interesting.
Which means that, for example, there is a facelift in a specific model, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know that changes will happen
Yeah, and that will affect
in the current fleet
100%
of this model.
100%.
So, yes.
And interestingly enough, is people don't even know they can ask questions like that to Seezar, right? Some of the time.
Up
right?
to now.
Yeah.
Now they know.
Now they know.
Now they know.
We're telling people. But yeah, so having access to some of these other modules gives Seezar quite, I think, knowledge that it can
And competitive
utilize.
advantage.
Yeah.
We can say that. We can say that.
Because it's built on all of these other tools.
Yes.
So in the development of Seezar, what did you feel like was a significant challenge? And do you have any advice for someone who would be trying to do something similar?
Okay, that's how I call it. Spicy question.
Spicy question.
Spicy question. Yes, actually, I can share something here, which users are not always, there can be a malicious use of a virtual assistant. I remember a car dealership in the US that actually made
It's
a
so
headline.
funny.
Yes.
Me and Nader talked about this example.
Really?
Yeah.
He did that? Okay.
But the
we
idea
want to avoid
is,
that.
no, it's fine. It's fine. Just the idea was there was someone who, just quickly, if you didn't catch the last episode, is someone basically prompt engineered a chat, a GPT to promise for $1 a certain car, and even was able to get
He
to say,
uses this example. There is another one. When someone asked for a Python code that does something, and
okay, so yeah, so it could be unrelated too,
yes.
right? So,
but it's the same notion.
Yeah.
We want to avoid that.
Yes.
For many reasons. We want to make headlines for a good reason, not this one. So, when we talked about routing before, when we try to understand the type of a question that user asks, there is also an option called, other. It's not automotive industry question, it's not inventory, it's not FAQ, but it's like other. So I think in a very nice way and in a way with a very high statistical significance, as we say, we have shielded Seezar of this type of questions.
Okay.
When we detect that something might be not a malicious use, but not an automotive industry related question, we route it into, actually we don't route it to any tool, and we just provide, the standard response, like I'm an AI automotive assistant.
This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yes.
And not what you're asking me to do.
Yes. It doesn't even go into the intrinsic structure of Seezar, not at all.
So and I guess
so we avoid this prompt injection. That's how it's called 100%. In a technical term.
And I guess from my perspective, the advice would be like, be aware of how
do something beforehand.
Right.
Yeah, that's the advice.
And be aware of what could happen so that you can as well preemptively
classify question types. That's my advice.
Okay. For someone who's
it solves a lot of problems.
Yes, 100%. Very interesting. So I think we're talking a lot about how it's beneficial. How do we measure that? Like, how do we measure how beneficial the product is? Do we have certain KPIs?
That's $1 million question for my past month.
Yeah, I think
yes.
I think I get asked this question all the time too. For more information and on stuff like that. But yeah, how have we been doing it so far?
I think we can divide it in two parts at least. First of all, we get feedback, right? We have the usual thumbs up, thumbs down. When it's thumbs down, we provide some alternatives, so user doesn't have to type free text and explain why. We have some standard responses like, is it inaccuracy, is the bot slow, or is it something else? So that's one. It's feedback. So we can measure how valuable or how, I don't know how you want to put it. How helpful the bot was in a quantitative way. That's one. So that's value, right? It brings some value to the dealer as well, because if you try to do that in different question types or even in different questions themselves, for example, it can reply maybe better in an SUV related question than a sedan question. Just I'm imagining things now, but this might happen, right?
Yeah.
This means that we can tailor the experience in a better way, or even we can let the dealer know that you get so many SUV type questions, so increase, your stock number when it
it's
comes
like,
to SUVs.
basically, some of the stuff you're saying is like, okay, provide numbers on a question type.
We post-process everything.
Yeah.
We even have now machine learning models that do sentiment analysis. We know if the user was satisfied or not,
Okay.
even if he didn't provide feedback, because we can post-process the entire discussion, right?
Okay.
So that's one. And we also can classify the discussion into topics.
Okay.
Topics are not written in stone. We started with 8 possible topics. We increased that to a 2-digit number. Then we dropped to 7. But I want to say that it's a dynamic process. It's not like written in stone, right? Which means that we can even tell the dealer and to ourselves as well which topic of discussion was more popular.
Okay.
We know how many times, for example, a service request was made.
Okay.
Or how many times where is your dealership located question was made, right? And I think that's of super value to the dealers.
So it's understanding the questions that are being asked. I think, there's so many ways those insights can be useful in terms of understanding what inventory you should be stocking,
Yes.
in terms of, how do we even make sure that we're answering these questions as best as possible? Maybe someone's asking a lot about, service location, which means it might be like not readily available publicly,
Yes.
like so.
Yes,
so you
yes.
can derive a lot of insights from
For post-processing.
Yeah. 100%.
That's a major part of what we do right now, actually.
And I
Since
think
we have the volume.
Yeah.
We have the volume now. to
Yeah,
do
we
that.
definitely have the volume. I think, not to self-praise, but like I think we're
It's a 3-digit number. We have many customers now. We have many customers now.
Yeah, and like
Across many time zones, by the way,
and the
which makes it
rooftops
more challenging.
are 4 digits, I think, at this point.
Yes,
But
yes.
hopefully onwards and upwards. So I think as director of data, how do you balance like the sophisticated data analytics side with understanding, I think, customers and dealerships and business needs? Like, how do you find that balance?
First of all, we should make it simpler for them, right?
Yes.
So regardless of how complex this the approach that we follow in Seezar and any data product, actually, it's not about Seezar per se. This question, what we should give to a client is should be something that it's easily, digestible. It's not like we're gonna do the entire work for him, but I strongly believe that we bring value when we communicate insights in a simple way. I have many examples on top of my head, but let's use something that is not Seezar related. Let's use car attractiveness.
Okay.
A car might be attractive, right?
Yeah.
But a car might not be that attractive.
Yeah.
So there are things that we can do. One of them is related to your department.
Yeah.
You can actually yes put the advertisements of this car, and we actually know from our mathematical fitting and functions and all that machinery that we use how much clicks should be elevated in this car to make it X% more attractive.
So what I'm understanding is like, okay, how you're balancing that is by understanding business needs and how to provide business insights from a data perspective, right?
Yes.
Because I think part of your job is just looking at understanding, formulas and looking at like the data side and mapping data.
Obviously,
and there's that side of it, and then balancing it with the business aspects of it. I think because this might be a little bit sophisticated. You have to find like a common ground of where those insights are.
And there are so many things that we can do.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say from a data perspective, but also you are a director of data, right? I'm director of data, which means that at some point it's not only looking at code, do stuff, and try to blah blah blah. It's about serving the business needs as well of the client, and I try to have my team now think in similar terms. It's not only about designing a product; it's about what problem we're trying to solve, or maybe plural, what kind of problems we're trying to solve, and how we can help dealers stay with us for an extensive amount of time by providing something, right? What's this something? It's insights, how you can improve your business, you can optimize your stock, your inventory, how you're gonna get more clients, and how, in the end of the day, sell more cars. So we should have this in mind when we code.
100%. I think always approaching it from the angle of what problem are we solving, and then let's build a solution for
Otherwise,
that.
we just code for the sake of it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm not, right?
I mean, some people I think get caught up in like, oh, this is super cool, but then they dive too deep there in terms of like,
and they lose perspective.
And they lose perspective, right? So the perspective is like, what problems are we solving, and how are we developing a product around that? Right?
Yes.
And I think that goes into like, how do you balance AI capabilities with unique needs of like different dealerships, because like different businesses require different insights, or you're solving different problems, right? So for different businesses or different dealerships that we work with.
Are we talking about Seezar or the entire data product?
You know, I feel like we can talk about all of them, right? Because it is, I think, in essence, the approach and not just the product, right? So it's how you're approaching it from a data perspective, or from the director of data perspective.
Having Seezar customized, as we can say, it is challenging, but this problem has been solved now. So in a nutshell, we can customize Seezar into different business needs, into different needs of each dealer. There is a dashboard that we have created. It's not about that. So there is some kind of customization that a dealer can do. But the thing is that we have explored and actually implemented techniques like each dealer can instruct the bot in a different way. Okay. He can either tell us, okay, do ABC, or he can instruct himself. We give this capability. So that's one. Okay. So Seezar can be customized in many ways. Even the icon can be changed, right? Yeah. But even the behavior of the bot can be changed. To be fair,
sorry for interrupting, but as well, we have different dealers call it different things, right? So even...
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like here in the UAE, we have Dahlia and we have Shaheen.
Yeah, even the name, yes. Yeah. Which make it more, human-like in a way, right? Yeah. So that's one. You can customize the behavior of the bot, like being even more polite, or talk with a different, accent in a way, right?
Yeah. To cater to different markets as well, which we'll get to.
Completely different markets in terms of stock, inventory, user habits,
and even communication, like method of communication, or how to be relatable to the person you're answering the question for.
Yeah. Fuel types, for example, change rapidly in each market. Dubai, okay, we all know UAE, right? You don't care about the price of gasoline. There are clients in different countries that do. And we have to prioritize accordingly in different EVs.
It's getting more expensive here, so let's not go there.
Well, yeah, okay, that's a different discussion, I guess, right?
So how do you make sure but it relatively stays flexible, right? Like, because we want to offer personalized experiences, but then we also want to make sure that it is capable of understanding different types of questions. So how do we make sure that it doesn't like pigeonhole into a certain area?
Well, there are some ways from a data perspective to do that. First of all, we try to understand what has happened in the past. Okay. So a major part of what we're doing now is post-processing. So that's one. Now, another way that we can do that is the so-called bot awareness. Okay. It's a feature that we currently develop. When we talk about awareness, awareness has many aspects. One of them, the most obvious one, is, okay, what date and time is it now? Because someone might want to book, a service request in like 3 weeks from now. We should be aware what day is now and to provide the appropriate, the most...
100%.
Yes. So that's one. That's the simplest type of awareness. There is another kind of awareness, however, is what kind of okay, I don't think that's an inappropriate word, but what kind of customer is now interacting with the bot? What is the persona of this customer, right? We can find out if interaction is, long enough, willingness to spend, what kind of body type or fuel type this customer likes more. We've done this exercise without Seezar at some point. Remember, we created personas of we know the family-friendly guy, we know the environmental-friendly woman in Denmark, we know petrol heads like us. So this means that we can tailor its guy's experience, its customer's experience, in a very quantitative way, in a precise way. That's a feature that we want to Seezar to have actually right now.
Very interesting.
We work on this.
And Dimitri just gave you an insight into us and how we're petrol heads.
Yes, we are. I own a Cupra Formentor. I don't know what you own. Okay, I know, but I want to say that publicly. Yes.
Cupra, Supra, they rhyme.
Yeah, Cupra, Supra, exactly.
Yeah. Good stuff. I think as well, you know, sometimes there's misconceptions within like the understanding of AI from a data point of view. What do you see are like the most common misconceptions?
Hallucination.
Hallucination?
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit more about
Yes,
that?
yes, of course. Simple chatbots rely on a very complex decision tree, right? Okay, you ask A, you get a response B, etc. Generative AI does not work like that. We won't get into the the transformers and all these things. Attention is all you need for our tech guys over there. But what's generative AI and machine learning? It's statistics on steroids.
Okay.
Which means the basic of this is still statistics. So a bot can hallucinate, which means it can give you information that it's false. It's not very accurate. It's not this. It's not that, etc. So there are ways that we mitigate this kind of responses. There are parameters that we can actually set, like temperature, for example. We can set it to 0, or use a more sophisticated LLM. We now use OpenAI's models, but we have built. We have plan Bs. We know that if something happens with, OpenAI server, we have a plan B in place. We're testing different LLMs, obviously, as a team.
Because also you don't want to use like a very advanced LLM for
We should
a very
optimize.
basic question.
Yes, we should optimize. For example, the FAQ type questions that are simpler do not need, the state of the art latest LLM, blah, 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 because they're simpler. Quantitative questions, on the other hand, like give me the top 3, cheapest cars that blah blah blah, a lot of requirements.
I think which LLMs historically struggled with, right? In terms of
yes,
some
and I think we were one of the first that, in my, as far as I know, we were the first in the automotive industry that facilitated quantitative type questions. Yes, they struggle. We all seen examples like that, right?
Yeah, we've seen examples
on the web
of like
and screenshots all over the place.
Yeah, it's like 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah,
no, it's 5.
How many
I'm
R's
sorry,
are
it's
in this
5.
problem? Yeah.
So like, I think
we don't fall victims in this kind of questions.
Yeah.
At all. Even since inception, since Seezar was born, because we follow specific processes, right? So that's one. But in order to answer your question in its entirety, I think that one of the things that we are also have been doing is again, it's post-processing. This kind of reasoning helps us a lot in. We know which tool, for example, is it the quantitative tool? Is the tool that searches the inventory? Is it the FAQ one? Is it something else? Is less accurate than a degree that we want it to be. And we can change that. We can do, we follow a very sophisticated approach, for example, when it comes to prompting. Prompting in English terms is like instructing the bot like you instruct a human being or a kid, a child, right? Do this when you are asked like that, blah, blah. And we have now a very sophisticated framework of optimizing our prompts. This helps a lot when it comes to hallucinations and not accurate replies or replies that can be, all over the place. This happens again, very rarely. I have to emphasize that because we have done so much work.
And I think that's where a lot of Seezar's value is, right? It's not just an out of the box, you know what I mean? It's not like you're going to a generic GPT or LLM
no, it's not.
Asking it a question,
not at all.
Right?
Not at all.
So the value comes from all of these different places. Is there any other places you feel like we've put significant work just broadly that you feel add value that make it very different than an out of the box?
Concerning Seezar, you mean? Yes. One of the things that we did since inception is not scaling per se, because obviously you want your bot to scale, but it's building an agnostic approach when it comes to what LLM you're gonna use. We're not tied to a specific bot provider, to a specific API, if you want. We have built an abstract approach. And right now, what the team is doing is building an abstract approach when it comes to prompting as well. Not only about, can you use Anthropic Claude, you can use OpenAI's APIs, or Llama, or something built in-house. Like you can train a bot, you can fine-tune a bot now. You have the capability to do so.
And that future-proofs it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it helps in terms of security, and it helps in terms of making sure, like, if there are issues, you can switch, etc.
Yeah. So in one word, the answer to your question is abstraction. We have abstracted everything now. We can change the bot type seamlessly.
Okay.
And we can optimize our prompts without spending a lot of time.
What opportunities do you see are coming, like to enhance Seezar's effectiveness, or like what do you see in terms of like the cutting edge in terms of what opportunities are
A
there?
multimodal experience.
Okay.
We can incorporate speech. We can incorporate visuals, video.
So this is basically what's coming up in.
It's part of our
the space,
roadmap,
right?
for 2015.
Yeah.
For 2025, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's part of the roadmap.
Yeah.
Multimodal experience.
And that's
I don't want to reveal anything more
I agree.
now, but it's really
we don't want to get in trouble.
Really cool. The new features that we work on.
Yeah, we generally don't like to talk about our roadmap, but we have so many things that we're working on. That
Just
are
give me a
exciting.
hint. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's quite general in terms of like looking at where LLMs today are.
I can reveal something here. Okay, we have Seezar, right? Seezar is sitting at the bottom, if I can say, of the food chain, because it is aware of its make and models, nuances or car equipment, or it can go that deep.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that you are a C-level employee at a dealership, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to find out how your dealerships did in terms of P&L, profit and loss, in October 2024.
Okay.
We have a new bot type called Copilot. Okay, the
trademarked. So
yes,
similar
trademark.
to Copilot.
You can call it, internally we call it, profit bot. But it is a Copilot in terms of use.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually ask it, instead of asking a BI analyst, you can ask this type of bot that sits on top of the food chain right now. We have actually POC. We have POC'd that, and there are dealerships that actually use it right now and provide us with feedback, a more sophisticated feedback than the one I explained.
100%. I think that
we have built a specific feedback section for this kind of bot.
Yes.
This type of bot. By the way, it's part of the abstraction that I talked to you earlier. We can facilitate different types of bots now with minimal effort. And this Copilot is a different type of bot than Seezar. Let's go back to that one. You can ask questions like, which dealership had the highest profit margin in October 2024 and why? Whys are something that, people die for this kind of information, right? Especially on a C-level executive. And we can actually provide this information. We can ask this bot questions like, how many EVs were sold, which dealership performed better, and blah blah blah, these kind of things. It can replace BI analysts, yes, for sure. It can shrink this department. The thing is that part of our roadmap again, we want to add even more capabilities to this type of bot. It can be your secretary. It can take notes. It can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and that all of those add value.
Yes,
I think. And you said
and it's not tied to the automotive industry. Remember how this interview
started
started in the first place?
I'm getting there. But I think like even a shameless plug here, but like even on Seez Boost, when we have an AI tool that we utilize.
I know.
Yeah, I know. And it's very interesting because it gives you the answer, and so you then have an easier time understanding the insights. Whereas now when we come to stuff like Seezar, it even gives you the why, which I think is the highest value. Instead of you hypothesizing what the why is and then trying to find the right answer, which is the usual, process of like, oh, I have this insight, or I think this is the right insight. It might even be the wrong insight, but this is the right insight, and therefore I need to act in this way. What's happening here is we're getting the answer already, and then we're also understanding the why. So so we're knowing to move in the right direction. And then all we need to do really is make sure that the data sources that are feeding this processing are as accurate as possible, right? So that it can get to the right answer.
There is an actual question and an answer that we got from that Copilot bot that actually blew my mind. I got a screenshot out of this. It was like, I'm the CEO of dealership ABC. In which areas, sectors, name it, should I improve in 2025 to get the most profit? The data analyst part of the Copilot bot dug into the data and it actually provided a reply in threefold. You should improve this, this, and that. That blew my mind.
Yeah. It can give the...
And it can answer this kind of question. Imagine that.
And it looks across the business, right? So everything from...
It looks at the real data
Yeah.
to answer this question.
Yeah, but
it's not like, okay,
it looks
you
at
should
sales,
improve.
it looks at marketing, it looks at after sales, it looks at like all the different departments.
It's not an
as
abstract reply.
Yeah.
And it goes like, your PL was this. If
Yeah.
your target is that, you should improve this and that.
Yeah, very clear. I think even with Seezar, we sometimes see salespeople utilizing it because it has access to a big pool of information,
True.
which honestly a human can't really process. Like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like we have access to so much information that it can help guide decisions.
Yeah, how do you convert that into insights? That's the next big thing, right?
Yeah, and I think just your opinion on a question I think that's being asked quite frequently these days is. And I have a certain position which I can get to, but do you see?
It's not what's happening in the US, right? It's
No. We're talking about AI. We're talking about AI.
Again, it's related, by the way.
But like in terms of AI, like what do you see the ecosystem evolving into? Like lots of people are worried about job security and stuff like that. But what do you feel AI is going to do in terms of impact?
Well, first of all, I think they're right to worry about certain departments that will be affected, right?
Right.
BI is one of those.
Okay.
Yeah, we cannot hide, behind our finger, right?
Yeah.
BI analysts will be affected.
Okay.
Yes. And I think data scientists as well, to a certain degree.
Okay.
So that's one. When it comes to AI in general, okay, that's a very broad question, obviously, because...
But before we move on,
yes,
you'd still need people to ask the right questions, right? One. Two, and I feel like
yes, AI empowers you. It's not going to
100%.
replace you 100%.
It's a tool.
Yes.
Like you would think with the advent of the internet, just when the internet was introduced, that now everyone has access to information. Why do I need a plumber when I have access to information? No, but there's specialized knowledge.
Well, and what kind of information?
You know what I mean?
We live
like,
in the post-truth era.
Right,
now,
but
so.
yeah, exactly. It gave us such access to information with the internet. Now I think it's like another step. You know what I mean? In terms of it also allows us to process that data and gives it to us in a simple format.
Yeah.
But I think the difference, like we survived the internet, and what it did is everything evolved, right? Everything evolved, right? So it's not like all these jobs ran out. That's one aspect to it. I feel like AI is going to increase quality, is going to increase productivity, is going to increase. Sure.
If you ask me about one word, is agent. Agents is the next big thing in AI. It's not about AGI or ASI, per se, but it's not this right now. It's something very tangible. You can ask your bot to do something that it will take you, an hour or so. Okay, search the web for this and that. Provide me with, a summary of what you found, and then fill this form for me as well. Okay. An agent now, in the future, can do that as well. So that's the next big thing, in my opinion.
Okay. So
and you ask me now, right? Which is January 2025. In 6 months from now, I will have a different reply.
So it's like also attaching actions to insights as well, right? So write this, do that as well, not just...
It's not only about understanding context. We do that now.
From my perspective, though, what an AI can't do that requires someone to be working on it is also responsibility. You can't attach responsibility. Like, even if I look at my own team, I can't replace them because I need them to be responsible and hold weight for the decision making that they're doing.
Yeah.
They're utilizing AI to take better decisions, but it's not like it's going to replace them because I can't give the AI responsibility.
It makes them more powerful, right?
Yes. Yeah. But
more efficient.
But does it take away from me needing them? I don't think so. How do you feel about that?
I can talk about my team.
You're growing your team, so obviously...
Yeah, massively actually, right?
So it's not being replaced by AI, right?
Yeah.
So why are you growing your team? Like, you know what I mean? When we could utilize these tools, because you need them. You need them to
I can put it in a more quantitative way, and I think in a better way. Without AI capabilities now, my team would be like 20% larger. We use these tools. We even use sometimes the coding capabilities of the latest, model in the market and all of that. It helps us for sure. It increases our effectiveness. That's one, obviously the effectiveness. But especially for remote workers, there is another hidden aspect of this, which, if I may say, you feel sometimes that you have a person that you can interact with, right? Because you can ask different types of questions to the bot itself. Like, help me, understand this, or give me, it can help you start something. It's not gonna help you, end it. Obviously, there is always the human in the loop, and the human factor involved. But it can help you for sure achieve something that you didn't know that it was feasible, 2 years ago.
Very interesting. And now going back to something
I love AI.
I know you're
the thing is that
I hope so.
Yeah.
What other industries do you think would benefit from something like this, like Seezar?
I think almost all.
Yeah.
Almost all. It's okay. The fourth industrial revolution and all that. I think it's true. It's true. We're not tied. Again, we're a tech startup. Okay, not much of a startup right now. Okay, we're very mature. That happens to work in the automotive industry. A recommendation engine is not tied to, car suggestions. Obviously, right? Assigning group of users to group of products, it's not tied to an automotive industry, right?
Yeah.
A virtual assistant like Seezar is not tied to the automotive industry. The co-pilot is not tied to the automotive industry. It's tied to any industry that has profit and loss metrics. It's very generic.
Very interesting.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to see where we end up in a few years.
I can apply that in my place, at my home,
100%.
I want to optimize this and that, in time.
100%. Well, Dimitri, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was a pleasure. It is a pleasure.
Yeah. So to everyone who made it all the way to the end of the video, thank you so much. Please do like and subscribe. We do want to grow this channel and keep providing you with value.
We'd like some feedback as well.
Yeah, we always want
we
feedback.
can post-process it also.
Not only that, like, honestly, we would like some input. If you have a certain topic that you would like us to cover, please put that in the comments below. And we will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.